Hello, everybody, and welcome back for day 2 of the Smite SEL summer or fall finals, excuse me. And it's actually been a pretty wild ride so far. But before we get started and anything else, that was Sennheiser that's bringing us all the great audio for this LAN and for the players.
It's the best stuff around. You should definitely check it out. You actually can get a special code using code hi-rez.
And code hi-rez gives you that 10% off, which is always something to keep in mind. But, of course, like I said, that thanks to Sennheiser. And also, I'll be your host today. My name's Taco, followed by Aggro and PB and Jelly himself from Obey.
How's it going, Taco and Aggro?
PB and Jelly. I always just think of him as Jelly, but I forgot that you added the peanut
I changed
butter.
my name. Honestly, sometimes I forget, too.
Just Jelly.
From every now and then. But, of course, the players have had a really awesome time here. But just making sure that you guys back at home are having an awesome time yourself, because we do still have our Smite adventure going on, and that's a pretty exciting thing with the Odyssey, I believe, and the adventure bundle in general is just awesome. I've
been on the grind, dude. I want to be on the grind. I can't be because I'm here working at LAN, and it could be worse, I suppose. But I'm still working. My soul items right now are real good. I've got Bancroft's talent almost done.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Jelly will actually get a chance when he gets home, since it's out on console.
I haven't played the newest one on console yet, but by that graphic, that's what I've seen. That's pretty cool. It looks exciting.
It's dope. It's really fun.
Yeah.
There's always a good time whenever you're going straight from PvP into actual PvE. I know everybody likes to take a break, and of course, that's not the only thing we've got going as well. We also have our 25% off for the superhero chest happening this weekend for you guys at home as well. So you want to make sure, if you want to pick up a couple of pretty neat skins, that's always something that you can check out.
Yeah, the superhero ROM skin is probably my favorite. I don't know. I just like the aesthetic of it. It's one of my favorites.
Always something to be appreciated. Everybody likes a good skin or a couple, depending on what you're getting. And as well, tomorrow, actually, speaking of the matches that we have going on, AVGL is actually going to be happening here at the same time.
Yeah, it's going to be me and J-Mac Tucker casting this AVGL Collegiate Championship. Really excited for it. Some really strong players. Some names you'll definitely recognize. Some names you might not. So you get a chance to see some of the up-and-coming talent around the league. And these guys, you know, the Collegiate Championship's always a lot of fun.
And these guys have always just been working really hard, and that's kind of what this whole event is about. I mean, Jelly, you're part of the players that are involved with this SEL Fall Finals, and I know that you guys have had an awesome time, but we had a couple of matches happening yesterday, and I mean, we all saw the results of those games, but we can take a quick look at the bracket here and see some of the results that actually came up, some of the upsets as well.
A lot of splits, man. Strictly Business and Astro Authority, thought of as the two strongest teams coming into this LAN. They both drop a game against their respective opponents, and then, Jelly, you guys against Enix in one of the craziest games in recent memory. That game, too, was pretty nuts.
Yeah, I would like to say we were confident going into it. I didn't think we would drop a game, but they put up a good fight. And I mean, that second game was probably the most fun I've had playing Smite in, I don't know, maybe ever. Just the way we came back, and then the back and forth stuff that went on near the end. It was super fun. I had a good time.
Everybody just seemed like they were getting really involved during that matchup yesterday. And, I mean, we always have a lot more. The crazy part is that was actually yesterday's games. That was only day 1.
Yeah.
And now we're popping off again today with the first match of the day even. I think it's going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, Myth versus SoaR is a really strong matchup. And these two teams looked really good yesterday. Myth, in particular, has been on the rise in North America as of late.
Yeah, you know, coming in at, I think they were either 3rd or 5th seed, so not anything crazy, but they've really showed themselves. We've been scrim partners with them for over the past 3 or so weeks, and they're really good. I'd like to think we were pretty good too, but they beat us most of the time. So, I mean,
who stands out? Who stands out for you on this team?
I'm thinking Jumpahhh and Crimson. Honestly, if Jumpahhh can play well, the team just gels around him. I think. Keegs with the carry role is also a big deal, but it really comes down to Jumpahhh. Honestly, his nemesis has always been really good. He can always put a showing on Thor. His God pool runs deep, and I think that's important to consider when we're talking about this guy. There he is there. Yeah, I think that his circuit too, he showed that in yesterday. It was really good, and if he can play well, I think that Myth can definitely take a game off of SoaR.
I think that was the really important feature also to notice in Jumpahh's gameplay yesterday is that a lot of people were saying it seemed like a significant improvement in comparison to the last time that we actually got to witness him playing.
Yeah, he didn't have his best showing at his first LAN, but remember, he actually ended up playing mid for a team that had a bunch of roster changes coming into that LAN. He switched roles really quickly right beforehand, and you could tell he just wasn't comfortable. Now he feels very comfortable. He's talking a lot more confidently. He's a leader for this team in game, and it's a big reason what they can do, and I completely agree with Jelly. His God pool being wide is very important for this team. They like to play a couple different styles, and having Jumpahhh be flexible is very important to that.
The wide God pool, I think, is probably one of the most important parts because of the fact that it gives his mid laner so much more freedom to kind of, it makes it so that Crimson doesn't have to be as limited in his God pick selection.
Yeah, Crimson, it just does disgusting things, especially on Thoth. I mean, his Thoth is on a different level. When he's on that God, he is one of the top mid laners in the game right now.
I mean, I think he is the top mid laner in the game when he's playing Thoth. I mean, there's just some times where he does some things that I don't even think are possible when we're playing against him in scrims. I just throw my hands up in the air. I'm like, how did he just do that? Like, wins the entire game off of one ult, like all the time.
And his soul is still good. His Nox is.
I mean, a lot of people say that his God pool is one God, and obviously, while he is known for his Thoth, like in these highlights right here. He can. I mean, he can play other gods, and maybe that hasn't been shown that much. But I don't want to say some things that he's shown, but I know he can show other than just Thoth. You know.
It's just one of those things where if a team's going to allow you to play your best God, why wouldn't you in a LAN environment, especially?
That's the thing. I mean, he's going to want Thoth. Like, just the way he can stand behind a wall and hit all three of his ones and his stun and his ult without even having to, like, see you. It's just, I hate it, but it's so good.
Why would you give this guy Thoth? I mean, if I'm against Myth here for SoaR, I'm either banning Thoth very early on or I'm taking it myself, because Shallowber can play it on the other side of the field. So if I'm SoaR, that is one of the picks I'm prioritizing here for sure.
But do you feel as though Shallowber's Thoth is going to be at the same level as what Crimson can bring?
It's interesting to note that before I knew about Crimson's Thoth, it was Shallowber's Thoth that I was scared of. He was the one behind the walls hitting me with the ults. He was the one that was hitting me with his damage. So yes, he has a Thoth. It might not be at the same level as Crimson, but yeah, Shallowber's Raijin, Shallowber's Thoth can show up. I know he has a soul, and he might be scared to bring it out, but his God pool is not as small as it used to be either.
Yeah.
And if they want to take away that Thoth or ban that Thoth, they definitely can.
And of course, I mean, you heard it from Jelly himself, a player direct opposition to Shallowber here at this LAN. And Shallowber is something to keep in mind. He's a player who's really been working himself up in the ranks, and he's also somebody that we got a chance to talk to earlier this week, and we want to give you a little bit more insight on that.
My own individual playstyle, pretty passive right now, I'd say. I think that's how we are as a team. I think we're a very passive team, which actually might be good in this meta, because this meta is, the games seem to go on pretty long because of, like, you know, Phoenix health and everything, so I think it could favor us. But sometimes it does, like, you know, kind of screw us, because it's like, I'll be in mid, and I'll be like, oh, yo, they're rotating to you. And my teammates will be like, all right. And then, like, they don't back up, and they're like, bro, why didn't you rotate? And I'm like, I called it. Like, you know, it's like, sometimes I do need to be more of a team player. I think that is pretty bad to me sometimes. You know, you play against Astral, and you see Astral, like, Covey will, like, get caught out. He'll be like, guys, he'll, like, ring a bell, and then, like, 5 people just jump out of the jungle and just, you know. It's a huge difference. They're very team-oriented. But then there's people like Mollusk and Jacob who they're trying to, like, frag in solo lane. And that's where the issue lies, because when you have people that are on a different page and some people want to fight and some people are saying retreat, it's just, you know, it just makes, like, comms incoherent, and that's the main issue. We have to be on the same page more. Our scrims are very inconsistent, not gonna lie. It's like sometimes we just destroy and it'll be like 20 kills and they have like 2 and, like, we're just stomping them. But then it's the reverse. Like, there's no in between. It's like, it feels like when we scrim or practice or whatever, even our SEO games, it's like we never, like, hold out. It's either we stomp hard or we get stomped hard. So I hope that this LAN is just a good day for us, I guess.
Probably the most important takeaway I want to point out from that video is there was a lot of back and forth that's seen from Shallowber. And so, Jelly, when you're watching a video like that, how would you regard a confidence of not only a player but a team?
Not only in that video, but also just how I know Shallowber. That is a big problem with him. His confidence going to LAN. I don't want to like call him out or anything, but he is one of the most nervous players before all of his games.
Oh yeah.
He needs like comfort around him almost. And last game he showed a lot more confidence, and I think that if he can do that today too, they can definitely put up a fight. And yeah, that inconsistency thing that he was talking about in that video. I think that if Mollusk is consistent, they can definitely take a game. And he was yesterday on that circuit.
And he was loud, and he was energizing his team. And that's really important for a guy who needs a little bit of a boost of confidence, having the guy who's on your side yelling, gassing you up. That's really important. And if Mollusk can do that, and if Mr. White can stay hot from yesterday as well, that's going to be a big boost for SoaR.
Oh yeah, Mr. White came up seemingly out of nowhere for SoaR, and it's just been an incredible performance from him this LAN. These picks and bans, though, they are just rushing through these.
Yeah, a couple Warriors banned away by SoaR, and Myth instead going to be focusing out Mollusk, and that's no surprise. Banning away his two best gods is a good look for Myth.
I mean, Inbowned and Keji had that in their mind since probably last month, the Circuit and the Rad. Everyone knows that that's what Mollusk plays, and everyone knows that he's going to build full tank on both of those gods. But more importantly, I think that the Osiris ban from SoaR is a direct shot at Delnyy on Myth. He loves his Osiris. He loves to dive the backline like that, and that's kind of how Myth plays. They like to dive that backline. So Osiris is a good ban there, and I think Cullen is too.
It's Hu Yi first pick. This is for Mr. White. This is his signature god, and there have been talks about that's his only god, but when he's playing as well as he is, no reason to not just give it to him anyways. Fafnir and Soul, a little surprised that Myth did elect to not take the Thoth. I mean, if I'm on Crimson's team, I'm picking that for him every game, but his Soul is also really good.
Yeah, that's showing that he doesn't just play that god. When they have the Fafnir up, they can run that attack speed comp, and I would be very surprised if they don't pick Hachiman in the third pick here.
They ran that exact same first 3 picks yesterday, and it was just early objective sieges, the attack speed between the Fafnir Coerce, the Hachiman Heavenly Banner. There was a Frenzy pickup, I believe, as well.
Yeah, but from Inbound.
Yeah, Shogun's Kasari. I mean, that's just so much attack speed and so much tower shred that there's not a whole lot that the enemy team can really do about it.
So when you're a team like Myth that's coming into this and you want to try and capitalize against SoaR's weaknesses, where do you think is your best shot to take?
I like the idea to take away the 2 most comfortable picks from Mollusk. Mollusk is a hot and cold player. I mean, look at his set yesterday. He pops off game 1, feeds his brains out game 2. That's the way that he is. And so taking him off his more comfort picks is a good idea. But this Najah is one that I hear he's fairly comfortable on.
The thing is, I've been told that he has a Najah. I haven't seen it,
right?
But the thing is, if he builds full tank on the Najah, it's not going to be bad. And I know he knows how to build full tank because he does it every game.
Yeah, he does.
And the Najah Thoth combo is really good too. And I know Shallowber loves having that set up for his ult. And the Hachiman pick with Myth, very predictable. And I really like that Kuzenbo ban too.
Yeah, Kuzenbo great against the double auto attack composition like Myth has, and Medieval played it both games yesterday, I believe. So he's comfortable on it and likes to play it.
Do you think that it could be maybe a little detrimental towards Myth because of the fact that we know Mollusk is a hot and cold player, but Najah is a hot or cold god?
Yeah, you're rolling the dice. I mean, it could come up big and Mollusk could pop off just like he did yesterday, or it could fall flat. I mean, it does lend itself to Mollusk's playstyle, and whether that's a good or a bad thing, it fits well. And so I think that this could end up paying big dividends for SoaR.
What do you think is the main reason for Myth opting to ban away the Geb when that might have actually been a super strong selection? Well, actually, I guess since they already had the Fafnir, it makes a little bit more sense.
Plus, you want to stop people from getting blown up off the hammer off the hammer throw. That's really the main CC that Myth has so far. And Geb Shield's very easy to cleanse that slower CC from Fafnir.
Yeah, and a Geb would give them great initiation. Artio, that's going jungle.
Really?
Jumpahhh loves Artio jungle. And without the Osiris, that's a little weird because they used to run Artio Osiris on us all the time and just dive our backline. But I would be very surprised if that's not going jungle.
Could be, but I agree with you that you need a pressure soul laner there. There are still some open. I mean, Erlong Shen still open. You could go for something a little bit less aggressive like an Amaterasu if you need to. But there are a couple warriors still on the table that can make this Artio work if it is going to be jungle.
Definitely. I've never seen them play Artio solo, so they could. They could do it. The weird thing is they don't. I don't know about Artio with that comp. That's a kind of an objective control comp, and Artio is more of a dive them in their jungle kind of thing. It seems like two different two different sides of the same coin. I don't know. It seems weird to me.
What about an Odin pick, maybe?
There it is.
There
Yeah,
it is
smart.
already.
I love it.
Yeah, the great call, because Artio really struggles against Odin, though can also make Odin's life very difficult with the cripple field. But Hachiman can't get out of there. Soul takes some time. Fafnir has the transform in the leap, so he'll be okay. But Odin, Xing, Chen are two really strong picks on the back end here. I actually really like SoaR's draft.
I really do too. Hachiman can get caught in an Odin ring. Myth is going to have to pick up a Phantom. Well, they're going to want to pick up a Phantom.
Yeah.
Sometimes Bobby is hesitant to pick up the Phantom, which I've noted. And sometimes when we play Odin against them, he seems to back away from the Phantom and elect for a sprint or a shell instead, but I'm excited to see whether or not they do it there. And the Bellona in the last pick.
Do you think there's a concern of a lack of damage, though, for SoaR, considering that Mollusk is most likely going to be building incredibly tanky on this Najah, so you're relying pretty heavily, it feels, on that Thoth Hu Yi.
I mean, Mr. White played so well yesterday that I'm not too worried about that. Plus, as Jelly mentioned, I mean, if Thoth is one of Shallowber's most comfortable picks, I think that there is potential for that, especially in the early game, but overall, I think that SoaR came away with a really strong draft here.
Yeah, so do I.
So if you're looking at these two drafts, who do you guys have taking it?
Okay, now I just said I like SoaR's draft, but I do think Myth is the better team. I think that it all comes down to the Hunter matchup. I'm going to give this one to SoaR, but not by a lot.
I agree with you. I think that Myth is definitely the better team, but SoaR's comp, I think, is a lot better than Myth's comp.
Yeah, I agree.
Even though they have the Fafnir, Soul, and Hachiman, I will give this one to SoaR too.
Well, time to find out from the casters as we head into match number 1 of SoaR versus Myth Gaming.
Thank you, Taco, and the rest of the desk. We got Finch and Tolly here bringing you Game 1 of Set 1 for the Smite console LAN. Tolly, how you like these two drafts?
I'm liking it a lot on both sides because we saw what Mr. White was able to do and pilot the Hu Yi too. Just an extended amount of passion, just such a good amount of work on this Hunter. And I think Myth as well, being able to 2-0 cast has a little bit of momentum, but SoaR was able to split against Astral, which is not the easiest thing in the world. So I'm really excited to get into this first game.
That's a big time game there for SoaR that they were able to get that split off, and a big part of it was Mollusk. So that's why my eyes are going to be on this Najah pick for him here too. How well is he going to be able to pilot this Najah and set up the rest of his team, especially with all that damage they have following up?
It's an aggressive composition, don't get me wrong, from SoaR. You have Najah and Odin to be able to just get into the backline to allow Shallowber the space that he really needs. MedievalDoc paired up with Mr. White in the duel lane, whereas Keegs and Inbowned were considering the invade.
And we got the 2v2 happening over here. Already jumping in aggressively, though, is MedievalDoc and calling it right away, Tolly. This is an aggressive comp being played aggressively by Mr. White and MedievalDoc. Good poke on the Keegs already.
As a warrior, you're really looking to make this plays. That's surprising that he went for a blink and the jump. Normally, whenever you want to get the blink, you're getting your third ability first for the potential kill, but now he has to jump away.
Yeah, he actually expends the blink. It doesn't really get even lane pressure off of it in the end, so I don't know if he was able to get everything he quite wanted out of that, but over here on the other side on that Soul lane, we're seeing, looks like they're going for not the invade, just securing their own bus on that in the map, and Bellona, Delnyy, and Jumpahhh just kind of back off.
That's going to allow Delnyy and Jumpahhh now to get some control towards these Fire Giant Elementals. If they really wanted to be super greedy, they had a small window to potentially go for the blue buff. However, at level 1, you don't clear the blue buff that quickly, so you got to respect the countering engage from both this Najah and the Xing Chen.
This has got to be nice for you, though, Tully. It feels a little bit old school, the 2-2 on the side lanes, then just the mid alone in mid. You know, we don't get to see it too often anymore. But
You calling me a grandpa over here or something?
Yeah, you know.
2-1-2 meta?
Granddaddy Tully.
Back in my days.
Either way, it's parity over there in that duel lane, which I think might favor Myth, because like we said, the blink was already expended. MedievalDoc and Mr. White want to be aggressive here, Tully.
It's what it seems like. That's why they picked the Odin so early in the first game of this set. They really want to try to establish early control. That's why you pick the Warriors in the Guardian position. They usually have a huge amount of higher base in-hand damage, and that's what they're really trying to look for.
And this is a big deal. JacobTask being able to play the Xing Chen over here in solo means that their composition doesn't suffer overall from it. It's like you said, they're just deciding where they want the pressure on the map from it.
And speaking of pressure and aggression, look at the build from Medieval to start things off. Ragna's Mask with the Watcher's Gift. Normally supports will go for the low nose, trying to allow their ADC to get the clear off, get some of those stacks to be able to get the gold, get the health as well, but not today. Medieval wants to fight, and he wants to fight early.
Even though there was pressure from SoaR, it's Myth Gaming who were able to rotate over and take those oracles and you know, secure just a little bit more neutral farm for themselves before they head back over to the duo lane, where actually it looks like it might have been getting frozen out a little bit there by SoaR Gaming in response, since they weren't able to go over and contest those oracles.
I like the idea here as well, just sitting in the lane for Medieval in the solo lane. A little bit of action here. Jumpahh's going to stun out Jacob, and a lot of crits onto Delnyy.
Mollusk, though, having some, just using the kit well up against this Bellona, interrupting that bludgeon to try and limit some of the clear out from Delnyy. It still wasn't enough. They were the ones that get pressure first, and he's the one that actually ends up having to back off so they can go back one more time and get those fire elementals and be right on time.
And I was talking about MedievalDoc here, still sitting in the duo lane, simply because his level 5 play is going to absolutely destroy KeegsMate. The problem is he doesn't have the lane pressure that he needs with his health already sitting at half health. He can't make this blink play that he wants to once he hits 5.
And they were talking about this on the desk. Would Inbowned be comfortable going with that Phantom? It looks like he might have, so might not be quite as detrimental. I mean, is that something that, you know, that it's good to force it out though, right, Tully? I mean, I'm thinking at least get it on cooldown.
If you can completely deny a strategy by your opponents, then yes, even if it might kind of deter you away from your own specific start, it's going to help your long-term much better. KeegsMate sitting level 5, more gold, more experience than Mr. White, and that's going to matter a lot, especially with freezing this wave.
Yeah.
Every little bit of gold matters here.
And take a look here. Shallowber going with that Warlock Sash start to start off. We already know from talking with him the other day, you know, he's not afraid to play a little bit safe, but actually up into the air. Mollusk taking him up, and JacobTask ready to spin him right back into the danger. Aegis, though, actually the good pickup from Jumpahhh to keep him alive for the moment. Transform Cage, and he's trapped in. JacobTask ends up taking first blood for SoaR Gaming.
4 ultimates were needed to use to find that first blood. Jumpahhh using that Aegis once he lands, but it still just wasn't enough. However, that's a good early game strat. We saw it actually yesterday when it was, I believe, Obey Alliance that was baiting out Mifflin in that Artio jungle role for a while. He was getting killed over and over again by Enix in the early game, but then later on down the road, once he get more tanky, it was a lot harder to kill this Artio, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen in this early game. SoaR's going to focus out Jumpahhh, but they need to switch it up once he gets tanky.
That's right. The Artio jungle is not really something you're looking for to have that early game impact. You're exactly right there, Tully. And so even if it does end up falling behind, I think, while Jumpahhh probably wouldn't prefer it, I mean, they've sort of accepted that that's something that certainly could happen here. But you're right. It took a big commitment from them onto Artio to get that kill. Jumpahhh had no help coming over there to try and get him out of that one.
Not at all. The backs from both of the dual lane members were used earlier on, so they wanted to get back to the lane and maybe look for some farm there. And MedievalDoc making that rotation from base was so huge for them because of how much they were getting bullied.
And that kill did go on to JacobTask over there in that solo lane. I'm trying to give him a little bit of help up against Delnyy piloting this Bellona and trying to give this Xing a chance to come over and have a bit more impact, because that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel Tully, we've seen it set up a lot of damage over this weekend so far.
This is a very old school matchup actually between the Xing and the Bellona. This is kind of like memories of Season 2 Worlds and Super Regionals in the PC side of things, but being very aggressive in the speed buff of Myth Gaming.
Once again, Mollusk takes one up into the air while JacobTask keeps Delnyy away. This time, though, it's Jumpahhh again who's in trouble. Delnyy with the up-down, but now he's locked in the cage, and he actually gets the return onto Mollusk. Double kill for JacobTask, but a good 1v3.
A 2-for-1, though. SoaR Gaming still at the better end of it. They were able to successfully look for this invade specifically because MedievalDoc yet again makes his presence known. Despite Jumpahhh and Delnyy dying, speed buff, they're going to be able to be taken away here, so that's less gold, more farm. And look at this solo potential.
Yeah, Mr. White jumping in aggressively, drops down the Sunbreaker on top of him. Not quite enough. Key's going to have to back up, but that's what we've been seeing from these hunters all weekend long. They're not afraid to fight. Neither is MedievalDoc, though, up against 2 here in the middle lane.
If that's done connected, we could have potentially saw some more follow from Crimson. So much fighting here, not even 7 minutes into this game, as SoaR has a 3-1 advantage, but not that big of a gold lead. They're not really able to find the invades that they want. Myth Gaming have been doing a great job of controlling their own buffs.
Yeah, it's not coming out too much in the gold lead, and really not even too much in experience. They've got a slight lead for Task and over Delnyy, as well as MedievalDoc coming out on top of Inbowned, but they are the ones pushing the pressure. They were the ones invading on the speed buff. They're the ones trying to force those fights. So SoaR, as long as they keep it up and get something out of it, I think it's still good for them.
I mean, what they're getting out of it thus far is all these stacks on MedievalDoc's Rangna's mask, already sitting at 3 stacks from the assists. He's able to really get that a little bit closer, and that's going to give him the movement speed, the penetration that he really really needs, and even some of the cooldown reduction to be able to spam those abilities.
There's a lot of people rotating over here towards JacobTask, using that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to throw Jumpahhh once again to the final judgment, which actually doesn't quite hit much of anything. Mollusk taking one more up into the air. Draconic Corruption coming out from Inbound, and in down comes Jumpahhh. See you later. MedievalDoc getting credit for that one. Jumping over is the Dragon. Inbound gets JacobTask. We'll see you later. And now it's MedievalDoc who's on the run.
He's able to run away for the moment. Speed buff is taken by SoaR Gaming, and yet again, MedievalDoc. This time, he gets a kill, so that's going to be 2 stacks on that mask, but not done yet as Mollusk trying to find another kill onto Crimson if he connects on these ring bounces, which he does.
And
it's going to set up Medieval.
Shallowber gets the stun that sets up Crimson locked down. MedievalDoc, though, actually takes way too much damage in return. He has to run. It was close, though, off a good play from Shallowber.
Shallowber was just a little bit too far away. And now look who's here. Keegs making the rotation. Able to take out one. He could have maybe even went for a second one. Mr. White not able to keep up the pace there. He actually forced out the ultimate from KeegsMate earlier on in laning phase, but it was just back up in the nick of time.
Yeah, that mounted archery riding the horse into battle came KeegsMate, able to out-rotate Mr. White. No chance of trying to come in and help even up those numbers. So that's going to help out. This duo lane has been back and forth over here totally, but now Keegs does have a kill up over Mr. White.
More surprisingly was that Keegs made that rotation without finished Warrior Tabby or Ninja Tabby. He rushed the Devourer's Gauntlets, being able to try to stay in the laning phase as long as he wishes with that sustain, but he ignored the farm in his duo lane, recognizing that there is some cleanup potential. Great rotation.
I mean, it was a prolonged fight, so that's KeegsMate recognizing he could make that rotation, like you said, have an impact in it, and still not have to miss too much over here in the duo lane. So just good map awareness from the AD carry coming out from Myth Gaming. KeegsMate playing well on this Hachiman pick, and that's going to help him out just a little bit. MedievalDoc, though, actually might be getting a little pressure, but no, he's able to get on out of there.
With all this action in the solo lane, I would love to see MedievalDoc now start making these rotations in the duo lane, try to cage out KeegsMate and, you know, lock him down. He can't get through that unless Inbound is there with the Phantom, so that counter rotation is going to be very important. And considering MedievalDoc is already sitting with 5 stacks of that Ragna's mask, he needs to continue this pressure soon.
At the very least, try and force out, like you said, the rotations, force out those relics, make them use it as they slap
Body
fight
blocks,
over these awards. And yeah, in the end, the rotation lets MedievalDoc end up getting that one. So a big win for the support.
That's the cute little things about Smites, you know, like every little thing matters. Positioning matters. Being able to recognize your hitbox of your character and using that to your advantage to block in-hands from either onto your wards or even onto your hunters as well.
And that's what we're seeing, them fighting over not just vision, you know, maybe even a little bit of gold there too, but Mollusk, I want to talk to him about him for a moment. I mean, he's 0-2 and 4, been a part of every kill. He's been all over the map, hitting these sashes, setting up these kills totally.
And because of his mobility from the Traveler's Shoes, he's able to just get there a little bit quicker, and then whenever he takes that damage, he's going to be able to use that HP 5 from the item, pop the heal with his second ability, so the more people he hits with a ring bounce, the more stacks he gets with that passive for the heal. And then now, finishing off the Gladiator Shield, he's going to even have more sustain for every target hit by that ring bounce.
And right now it feels like we're just seeing the difference between going with that actual assassin versus the Artio in the jungle right now. So Jumpahhh will probably be the one having a bigger impact once he's able to finally get online there too.
It's more about the single target from Mollusk versus the AoE from Jumpahhh in the later portion. And that's what I'm going to be looking for specifically in the next couple of minutes. How frequently can Mollusk take that one target into the sky before Myth Gaming can respond?
And I want to talk about this, despite the fact that SoaR's the one up in kills and they're the ones that seemingly have the pressure. I mean, Myth Gaming, at least gold-wise, are a little bit in the lead. They've kept this very, very even, totally, despite SoaR's pressure. And I got to ask you, is it heavily in favor of Myth once it comes late?
I think in the late game, yes, simply because they have the Fafnir that can easily boost the attack speed of both Keegs and Crimson playing this Hachiman and Soul combination. I'm really worried for them, especially once that Shogun's Kusari gets completed. And on the flip side, SoaR Gaming, Odin falls off in the later stage, and he becomes this ult bot. The damage from his bird bomb, you know, can easily get negated with the health and protections that from just scaling upon the levels. So I'm not too worried for Myth in the late game.
Myth likely going to have a good chance. As you said, they could even be just objective focused. I mean, clearly that coerce with those two in-handers can be very strong. We've seen it happen a lot this weekend, just a lot these last couple of weeks. It's felt like here, totally, that Fafnir and then those two in-handers combination so potent. And even though it's SoaR the one that's been pressuring these objectives, I would not be surprised if it stays even for a little bit longer that we see a switch and it starts to be Myth.
You know, Myth came into this as a great team from the online portion. SoaR struggled, but, you know, last day, being able to split against Astral was very impressive.
Yeah.
And Myth was able to kind of snowball pretty heavily early on against Kaz. So the fact that SoaR is still holding strong heading into the 13-minute mark shows great signs of improvement heading here to Georgia.
And we've been hearing a lot of good stuff about this SoaR roster. That maybe, you know, the talent on this roster is better than than the record that we've seen here from them. So yes, it is impressive for them to be able to hold here with Myth Gaming, but after what we've been hearing, I'm not too surprised. I mean, we know these guys are capable of it. Who can show up here at LAN? Who can get the most out of these two-game sets, totally? That's really all this weekend is about. You kind of have to forget that the regular season, at least your record, and try and come in and have a fresh mentality here for it.
Both of these teams having a mentality for the mid to late game right now. Looking at Shallowber, almost finished stacking off that Warlock Sash, and I think he's probably going to go into Book of Thoth here, unless he's going to go for a different option as he starts up that tier 1 portion of it. Wouldn't expect a Soul Reaver anytime soon here. He needs some penetration, though, with this build, and that's what's lacking in it.
JacobTask has had some pressure over here on Delnyy. I want to ask you here, Toli, how typically does the Xing Bellona matchup go in the solo lane? Because JacobTask has had some help, and he seems to kind of be coming out on top.
I mean, in 1v1s, anytime the bludgeon comes out, you're going to be able to knock him up and root him in place. It cancels the secondary part, but hold this thought. Sprint being popped, but inbound with a great stun to interrupt.
Mollusk taking Jumpahhh up into the air yet again. Crit's not hitting for all that much. Drops down to the final judgment. The immediate return damage comes out from Crimson. Mollusk is low. MedievalDoc is able to finish off Jumpahhh, but they're actually able to use the Phantom to keep pushing. Rotating on the back, though, is JacobTask, but not able to slow Inbound down. He jumps away, and now he might get turned on.
The problem was that there was just so much magical damage, but not done yet. JacobTask pulling in two into the Suns, and then here comes the horse as well. KeegsMate diving the backline, taking out JacobTask. Delnyy making the rotation as well, but MedievalDoc just barely blinking away there.
2-for-1 overall right now in favor of SoaR Gaming. They're the ones that started that fight, and they're the ones that ended it well. As you said, MedievalDoc makes the hot blink to get out just barely with any HP remaining. SoaR Gaming continuing to be the ones putting the pressure, but they can't win by a large enough margin, it seems like, Toli.
No, they did get a 2-for-1, but Mollusk is getting cleaned up. KeegsMate making the aggressive dash, but the movement speed between the speed buff and then using that Talario boots, getting out of danger. Great avoidance of death.
Shallowber was right there to try and act as a bit of a deterrent to pumping damage into his face, so there's no way for him to keep moving on. In the end, everyone makes it back out at the end of that engagement. Okay, SoaR Gaming now the ones, at least gold-wise, on top by about 600 or so. And again, that's not a whole lot, but it does show they are finally maybe getting a little bit more of that control back. The experience lead we saw closer to about 2,000.
I'm surprised that neither of these teams are even electing to flirt with a Gold Fury yet. There's more elected to try to keep on team fighting. MedievalDoc still sitting very pretty right now with 8 stacks of that Ranked Death Mask. Just needs 2 more to be efficient here. He's been a part of every single kill, and so far, SoaR's early game strategy around this Odin pick has been working out. They've been finding the picks onto Jumpahhh specifically, not taking that much damage from the tank Najah, but it's not about the damage from the Najah. It's about what the setup brings, and what's waiting on the ground is Shallowber on the Thoth.
And it's so strong that we're able to see MedievalDoc play this Odin pick so well. It's a big deal for this SoaR Gaming roster because Odin's such a priority pick. Mollusk gets the sash off an Inbound, who immediately just turns tail and gets on out of there. Some aggressive positioning here around the Gold Fury now for SoaR Gaming. They're trying to ping out KeegsMate and set up a bit of a trap here for him, but he's not rotating in. Instead, on the back end, it's Mollusk taking him up into the air.
Yet again, taking a tanky target. It's going to force out the early Dragon form. Supernova from Crimson being popped as well, but in the back line is actually KeegsMate diving.
Mr. White makes it out of there, even drops the Suns down back on top. Delnyy takes down Mollusk. Delnyy actually gets a double kill. Keegs gets in the return, as does JacobTask. MedievalDoc is the one in no man's land, trapped in that cripple-filled Delnyy with a triple kill. Slams him into the ground. Shallowber now the only thing between them and a Gold Fury.
He doesn't have final judgment, so he can't steal this easily in the backline. JacobTask teleports in. He flips Crimson, forcing out the Aegis early on, while Jumpahhh keeps Shallowber busy.
Jumpahhh is keeping Shallowber away here. The Gold Fury not going to be able to get started up. They did not feel comfortable pulling it, but that's a big-time fight for Myth Gaming. Delnyy, in particular, really coming up big for him. Why did that go in favor of this Myth squad?
It was just a great rotation from KeegsMate in the backhand side. He did sacrifice his life, but all eyes on Keeg from SoaR Gaming. All their abilities were dumped on that Hunter. Early on in the fight, it was on Inbound. You know, the setup from Mollusk, and then once he landed, he was able to go into the Dragon form and then continue the chase while KeegsMate on the backside created that pincer maneuver, and that's why Myth Gaming got the 3 for 2. But unfortunately for them, they couldn't really respond with a Gold Fury simply because JacobTask had a teleport. Not a very common relic nowadays.
He was able to come in on that ward in the back end and help out. It really felt like in that team fight, we felt the difference between the two different types of solo laners that we have here, between a warrior rotating in and bringing in some decent damage, and then the Guardian coming in for control. That it feels like that's the difference we saw there, Thoth.
Now, I'm not sure exactly when JacobTask bought the upgraded version of this relic, but that 500 gold investment is huge because now he prevents Myth Gaming from getting 1,000+ gold.
Yeah. That's 500 gold he gave up to save his team being down 1,000 globally. I think it's a big deal and a huge call JacobTask made to pick that up. So in the end, it ends up being kind of a wash. I mean, yes, Myth Gaming won it teamfight wise, but because they couldn't get anything off of it, it slows back down the pace. But again, this goes back to is a wash in favor of Myth because of their comp.
I think so. Honestly, this late game is just getting scarier and scarier. Inbound is just increasing the levels. He's going to get even more tanky and then more damage for Crimson and Keegs to follow suit. So far, we haven't seen this much damage from either of those two gods, where it's actually JacobTask on the Xing Chen that's being a big bully over there in the solo lane, but I'm expecting those numbers to start to overcome everyone else.
And we've seen this before. I mean, yes, Jumpahhh on this Artio is kind of falling behind here totally, but we saw it yesterday. Artio's still going to cripple you. She's still going to stun you. She's still going to root you. I mean, all that control she brings in team fight, she's still going to have it. So, yes, they've got Artio behind now, but, I mean, late game, she's going to keep doing all those things.
Delnyy has lost his tower, unfortunately, in that tier 1 lane. So 500 gold for SoaR Gaming's not too much here, but they are able to build themselves a slight lead here. And it's all about the positioning here because Delnyy doesn't have teleport. He's more interested in the team fighting potential between the Thorns, between that horrific emblem. So all JacobTask has to do is literally sit in that soul lane while his teleport is up, force Delnyy in that slot, and then use the teleport to try to force a 5v4 fight in the dual lane.
Delnyy even had the hide and man lion there totally. I mean, really, he wants to be in the front, being the one taking the damage and trying to return it back to him. So getting in there and being that damage sponge for his team. Level 18 right now, tied with KeegsMate for highest level in the game, and I would not want to fight Delnyy right now in this Bellona.
Definitely not, but at the same time, TheMedievalDoc has now finished transforming that Rangna's mask, and that's a huge power spike now for this Odin. I wouldn't want to fight him either.
No.
Mr. White just kind of toying with KeegsMate, just juking out all his shots.
In the mid lane here, Jumpahhh doing some pressure onto Mollusk.
Okay.
Actually, Crimson's very low in the back. Has to use the Aegis. Inbound here to try and lock him down too, as is Jumpahh, but unable to. Very safe and able to get right on out of there. But looping around the back end is Delnyy one more time.
He's going to get out the Scourge. He's going to disarm 2 members. The defensive ultimate from Mollusk getting out of danger instead of using it aggressively. Great rotation from Delnyy. He forces out that defensive ultimate from Mollusk.
But now it's Myth pulling the Gold Fury. They got the pings down here. They know where SoaR Gaming are trying to come in on the map. It's Jumpahhh that they're trusting to go for and try and zone them out. Gold Fury now down below half health. They drop it. They instead look for the engagement, but Crimson gets immediately chunked and taken down over the wall by Shallowber, who ends up taking out Crimson.
No Aegis for you this time around, and JacobTask isn't done yet. He doesn't have the ultimate to make this dive work, but Delnyy is still here. He still has the Eagles rally, and there it goes.
For me, this is all Shallowber. Mr. White ends up getting Jumpahhh, and all the damage came through one more time. This fight's 2 for 0 in favor of SoaR so far. That was Myth that started, and SoaR who pushed him back out. Mollusk with the max range sash. Not quite enough to finish it out, but at least forces him away.
Keegs is getting a little bit too antsy here with Jacob still protecting his jungler, and it's SoaR Gaming the respond in kind with the first Gold Fury of the game at the 21-minute mark.
And there was a lot of control that was being provided in that fight by MedievalDoc and JacobTask, and who was ready to follow up? It was Shallowber coming in with that Thoth over the top. I don't know if he even got any kill credits on it, but he definitely was providing the damage. Second only to JacobTask right now for SoaR Gaming.
That was a 2-part team fight. You know, first started off in the mid lane, and the the key footnote here of this team fight was the actual Aegis being forced on Crimson.
Yeah.
And it was used after the final judgment, already connected. Crimson could have used that a little bit earlier, and he would have been very healthy, been able to sustain a little bit more with his first ability, but he didn't. And therefore, the second part of that team fight that transitioned around that Gold Fury was an easy kill for Crimson, fighting 5-on-4. SoaR easily takes out another member and gets gold.
Now SoaR Gaming are the ones that finally have a little bit of a lead after getting that Gold Fury. Over here on the right-hand side, JacobTask battling it out with Delnyy once again, but it's actually Myth who were trying to establish a position around this Portal Demon. MedievalDoc can't slow down inbound. He'll just jump over the wall and get away. But now, let's pull this Portal Demon. But everyone knows there's a ward here, and Myth Gaming are on their way.
JacobTask trying to zone out a couple of members. MedievalDoc going to take some poke for his troubles. Portal Demon was reset. SoaR Gaming needs to be a little bit more mindful. It's Delnyy getting into the backline as Jumpahhh gets dealt with by Medieval.
Now they're going to drop the Portal Demon, so good defense from Myth. That was enough to force him back, but they're still going to hang around this area, even though they don't have it pulled. Delnyy taking a little more poke than I think that he wanted to, already at half health. Root from Jumpahhh locks down JacobTask for the moment, but they'll back off.
That was a really good dash by Delnyy. If he doesn't dash there, he gets knocked up by JacobTask and rooted, and the rest of SoaR can easily respond. Shallowber can dash in, find the stun if he really wants to, and the long range from SoaR between Shallowber and Mr. White, their zoning control in these team fights are almost unmatched here.
Pulling the Portal Demon one more time is SoaR Gaming. They want to force this fight while they have a little bit of a lead. They do. Already at half health, too. They're chunking it. Are the damage dealers jumping in is inbound to try and slow him down, but not enough to contest the objective. SoaR end up getting an inbound, actually, taking way more damage than he wanted to. Has to jump on out. Supernova comes out. Doesn't get exactly everything they were looking for there on the back. MedievalDoc not able to slow down Delnyy, who jumps on over. It's Jumpahhh in the middle, though, who's locked in.
And the cage is just zoning everyone out. Now it's Mollusk taking Crimson into the sky. Mr. White is dropping the Suns. Keeks is going to dive the backline with his horse. Crimson buying time with the Aegis. He's still keeping a lot of members alive, but it's actually a 2-for-1. SoaR in the favor.
And now it's Jumpahhh trying to lock them down. MedievalDoc using the shield to get the health back up. Doesn't quite land down on top of the bear. And the bear's going to be able to bear it inbound. Disarming Shallowber for the moment. MedievalDoc once again low, but they turn back on the Mollusk and they take him down. They're low, but it wasn't enough from Odin. Now he's the one in trouble. Jumpahhh ends up getting credit for that one. 2 for 2, or 3 for 3 rather. Overall, JacobTask trying to get a little bit back here from Delnyy.
Shallowber going back in. He's going to find the stun, the root into place, trying to chase him down. He's going to heal a little bit from that coerce, but all they need is Shallowber to dash in here.
Inbound, kept Delnyy alive for the moment, but Shallowber is still here, able to take him out, unable to keep following up any further, but that does put that fight in favor of SoaR now. 4 for 3. They still got 2 members strong, and looks like they're going to take this Tier 1 tower in mid.
These team fights are still going so close here.
It's
just
very
getting
close.
A result of a Tier 1 mid tower at the 24-minute mark. Normally, some teams, when they get such a team fight advantage, they get Fire Giant, they get Tier 2s, but only 500 gold is what SoaR was credited after winning that team fight. Just goes to show that Myth Gaming are still in this team fight, are still in this late game as well. As long as they can clean up some of their positional mistakes. Crimson getting targeted by Mollusk yet again. This tanky Naja, his job there is just to get somebody out of the team fight, and that's what he's been doing.
That's 100%, I think, the difference between these two teams right now is that Shallowber has basically been able to free cast for SoaR Gaming in the back end of team fights, while Crimson has not been able to. He's kind of been the focus from this SoaR Gaming roster. 0-2-5 right now for Crimson, 5-0-7 for Shallowber, and second damage. KeegsMate in trouble. Once again, the left-hand side. Aegis comes out. Sunbreaker over the top. See you later, KeegsMate. Mollusk now with the sash. Locks down inbound just for the moment, but he's too tanky. He'll run away. Crimson is rotating on the back end to try and help them.
That was a clean pick, and that's what SoaR needs here to really get some Tier 2 towers, or maybe even the Gold Fury after the fact. It's a 4-on-5 for Myth Gaming. They're going to concede this Tier 1 tower. Shallowber's going to dash in very aggressively. Get some poke off here, and that's the name of the game for SoaR Gaming. Just use this 5-on-4 advantage while Keeks is still dead for 30 seconds.
It's a 4v3 over here. The solo laners have not rotated yet. MedievalDoc is going in, trying to keep Crimson out of the fight one more time. Mollusk has over the air, but inbound's already gone. He just walks into damage. Jumpahhh lives through the ultimate, but now he's trying to root MedievalDoc, but he's trapped between two. Mr. White gets credit for that one, and JacobTask over on the side keeps Delnyy from having any impact in this fight.
That's a great ultimate. Defensively, JacobTask also is going to knock him in place. Even more poke from Shallowber. SoaR Gaming are looking so clean, a 3-0. They got the tier 1 in the left side. They're going to go for the tier 2. Eagles rally over the top, but Delnyy needs to run away here.
Delny's locked down. Delnyy is gone. Mr. White gets credit for that one. Tier 2 tower in left falls as well. And totally, that felt like all the members of SoaR Gaming doing exactly what their jobs were in that fight perfectly.
KeegsMate just caught in no man's land to start things off. That 5-on-4 was just so easy for SoaR to clean up after the fact without Inbound being in position to use that Phantom to get his Hachiman out of danger is why this Odin pick has been so successful. Myth Gaming, they need wards all over the map to spot the rotations from MedievalDoc, but even if you do, the mobility is just not in Inbound's favor simply because of the Ragna's mask.
And you talked about it totally. What SoaR needed was a clean fight. And that's what they had just now. They lost nobody. It's an 8K gold lead, or just about now, in their favor because they were able to take tier 2. They got all those clean kills, and they take the gold fury. Now SoaR Gaming finally in a commanding position in the game to try and push the pressure in. Myth Gaming not out of this one yet, but they're going to need a big fight.
About 8 to 10 minutes ago, this game was only separated by 500 gold, and that was basically because of that tier 1 tower on the right-hand side off of the teleport from JacobTask, and this has been just skyrocketed off of a couple of team fights. The positioning from SoaR Gaming has been superior to Myth. The backline, Crimson and KeegsMate, just can't get in there safely.
I mean, I think it's even closer than that. At 24 minutes, we saw that 4-for-3 exchange. I mean, it's been very, very close between these two teams here, totally. And now, finally, SoaR Gaming have kind of broken the game open a little bit here. That's what they're going to be looking for. They're looking for a chance to try and find a way to get back into this fight.
And getting their speed buff here, now setting up for Fire Giant. Portal Demon has been respawned. Trying to find this potential team fight. We're seeing MedievalDoc actually back, finishing off his Emperor's armor. He really wants to close out the game here, mitigating some of this attack speed between the towers and the Phoenixes.
JacobTask trying to lock down Delnyy. It's the sash, though, that comes out from Mollusk, taking him right up into the air. The Suns are going to be waiting on him when he lands. That's enough. They got Delnyy out of the fight already. Shallowber in the backline trying to put some damage, but it's Crimson who's once again in trouble. Actually gets back the return on the Mollusk, taking out the jungler, and MedievalDoc not able to lock him down.
Jumpahhh left alone. He's going to be able to dash away for the moment. He has speed buff. He needs to get away. Mr. White is actually going to stop chasing because there's a lot of split action here. Shallowber going to get stunned out, but Inbound needs to jump away here. Not able to reach those hits, but yet again, it's been a 1-for-1 trade, though. Mollusk did have to trade his life.
SoaR Gaming, though, the ones with the healthier health bars, so they come back to pick up this Portal Demon as Myth had to back up way too far to try and contest. Now they'll get a chance to go back, make sure they're fully purchased up on their items, fully healed back up, get some wards too to take out some of this vision, and they can start looking again to posture around this Fire Giant.
KeegsMate was at 25% health, so now he has to back. This is going to be a technical 4-on-3 for SoaR around the Fire Giant. They can even potentially just ignore the Fire Giant entirely and look for some more picks because Mollusk is respawning here, and he's going to take this Portal Demon before Jumpahhh can get in.
That looks to be the call. Mr. White already has the Fire Giant down to half health. Jumpahhh came in, so they do have a little bit of vision on it. He was able to place that ward. Mollusk once again taking another member up into the air as MedievalDoc jumps in to keep Crimson out. Inbound already gone. SoaR Gaming now a 5 against 4. Mr. White, though, continuing to chunk away, but Jumpahhh is lurking on the back end, but the mark of the Crow's going to give him some vision.
JacobTask is going to try to find somebody with that pull, and he will. Onto Delnyy. Suns come raining down as well by Mr. White in the backline, though. It's Keegs trapped alone. There's no Phantom. It was used in the last team fight.
There's no way to help KeegsMate. He's already gone. Jumpahhh getting locked down for the moment thanks to the control out from Shallowber. Jumpahhh, we'll see you later. Shallowber ends up getting credit for that kill. Mollusk now has to retreat. He's low, but MedievalDoc doesn't. He goes in for the slow on him and forces them away. The jump in from Shallowber blows up Crimson Tully.
He finds it. He dashes in aggressively. This is a different Shallowber than I saw last year at the summer finals. He was so nervous back then, but there's no nerves here. He's leading his team to victory. He's sitting at 9-0 and 11, top of the player damage chart. SoaR Gaming, they found a split against Astral yesterday, and here they are. Probably going to take the first game against Myth.
Totally. When Shallowber plays like this, SoaR Gaming can beat anybody here. When
Absolutely.
Shallowber plays like this, man, this dude's going off this game on the Thoth pick, already stunned underneath the tower, able to get a little bit extra return damage. Mollusk is going to take him out for the moment, inbound to the Dragonic Corruption, but he lands back down and immediately gets blown up and has to leave. The cage is enough to trap in Delnyy, couldn't even jump out of it, he's still stuck. They focus on the mid Phoenix instead and tear it down.
They're willing to just let him live. Keegs, though, goes on the horse, but needs to dash away from all that damage from Shallowber. Yet again, just the damage from this mid Thoth, but you have to give credit to where credit is due. SoaR Gaming's front line allowed Shallowber this kind of freedom and safety to just get off all the casts that he really needs to. The position from Mollusk and TheMedievalDoc has just been perfect this entire game.
This is an example of where KDAs don't tell everything here, because Mollusk is going to look like a 2-5-9 towards the end of this, but Mollusk has been setting up almost all of these engagements by finding the right picks, taking people up out of the team fight, and just making the rest of the fight easier for SoaR Gaming. They looked very clean this game here, Tolly. They've looked excellent up against Myth.
And what a way to start off this two-game set against Myth, who was able to 2-0 Kaz yesterday. This is going to shake things up in the group stages, because when I looked at this group heading into it, I saw Myth Gaming, I saw Astro. I'm like, all right, there's also SoaR, there's also Kaz. Maybe SoaR can sneak in a win here or there, but I'm expecting Myth and Astral to get the better end of them, but not today, SoaR Gaming says.
No, SoaR Gaming looking like they are not going to be giving up any games here for free, and you said it exactly right. It's all still entirely up in the air here, Tolly. One thing that I like to talk about is like momentum in these sets. That's really not been a thing this weekend so far. People have forgotten the last game, and they come in shouting and yelling in the next game ready to go.
I mean, just look at it. What was it? Obey against Enix set, where we saw Vaporish Coast just go off on that Uller. It was very impressive yesterday, and we're not done here. To start things off in day number 2, SoaR Gaming able to get a commanding 14,000 gold lead. Fire Giant around their waist for another minute and a half. They got the middle Phoenix. They could keep pushing here.
Yeah, there are no towers left on the map. Only 2 Phoenixes in between them and that Titan that stands for victory if they're able to knock it down. Myth Gaming, though, they're going to be relying on a lot of key members on their team to make the defense. Who are you looking at on Myth to make this defense happen?
Crimson just needs to hit the hottest supernova stellar burst combination of his life. He needs to pray that SoaR Gaming are going to be clumped up and that Shallowber makes an overzealous dash in the backline, but knowing the way SoaR's been playing, I don't think they're going to give Crimson that opportunity.
Now the mid Phoenix or the Phoenix on right rather is going to be the call for SoaR Gaming. Already keeping Delnyy zoned out is TheMedievalDoc, but Delnyy actually comes in underneath and keeps pushing in. Phoenix already at half health from the pressure from Mr. White, jumps away from the damage, and it's Inbowned who takes way more poke than he was looking for. Keegs is here though to try and help out.
Right side Phoenix getting looked at here. Delnyy able to dash away before getting hit by that ricochet stun combination. Now Phoenix sitting at still have health. Shallowber's going to go in, but it's actually a blink by Jumpahhh in the back.
Supernova is dropped in that fight around. The Sunbreakers are Mollusk once again up in the air, and Shallowber has already taken out Keegs. Landing back in as Delnyy goes up, and he dies a second he lands to Mr. White. JacobTask spinning him through the air, and there goes Crimson. Mr. White with a double kill in this fight. Mr. White with a triple kill in this fight. The right side Phoenix are actually running past it totally to go take down the Titans.
SoaR Gaming are looking so strong here in day number 2. They got the split against Astral, and now they're going to find the first game against Myth in this 2-game set.
Yeah, they're looking real good right now. Our SoaR Gaming not in particular, everybody, all 5 members of them totally looked excellent in that set. They worked so well as a unit, whether it was Mollusk taking people out, whether it was JacobTask that was bringing them into the Shallowber damage, whether it was Mr. White just being good. They played well.
There was all the moving parts necessary for SoaR to find that victory against Myth Gaming. You know, all these knockups, all these pulls by JacobTask. It was overlooked, I think, by a lot of what Shallowber was doing, what Mollusk was doing, but he was making a huge impact of, you know, zoning multiple members against Myth Gaming, and I'm really impressed here by SoaR in day 2.
Yeah, that TheMedievalDoc on that Odin looked really good, but I mean, totally, I think you and I could probably sit here and talk about that game for a while, but let's go ahead and get over to the desk and let them break it down.
Thanks so much, Finch. And yeah, that was a pretty crazy game one out of SoaR. I mean, those guys were just popping off the entire time.
You want to talk about energy, man. I mean, Mollusk is losing his mind. That makes Shallowber lose his mind. Even JacobTask is yelling. I mean, they are all yelling. And then on the other side, I mean, everyone from Myth is yelling too. That was fun. I mean, just sitting in the crowd. For the console games, it's always
I'm
like
telling you, man, console games, being in a LAN environment for console games is just the best. I love hearing the teams yell at each. I love yelling at the other teams too while we're playing, but yeah, I love it.
It's always a really exciting time anytime you're being able to directly challenge your opposition. I don't know. I feel like it's crazy to be involved with, but I think another thing that was kind of crazy was Shallowber was seemingly untouched.
Yeah, I mean, that is the mage dream. To get that much free casting in a team fight, like, that's everything I've ever wanted in a Smite game. And a lot of it is credit due to Shallowber's positioning and the team comp that SoaR drafted. I mean, how do you get past the Odin cage? Because Delny's getting caged there every time, so is Inbowned. Jumpahhh, the Artio jungle, I've had enough already.
Yeah, so have I.
I'm done with that. I'm sure you are, but
I'm done.
I just don't think it's that good. I'll be honest. I just think that Artio is better in solo or in support than she is in the jungle. It put no pressure whatsoever on Shallowber.
Yeah, I think with the Artio, I mean, you see that slash line 10-0. I think because he was playing that Artio and he got behind, it allowed him to do stuff like this. Like, look at Inbound walk up and just get shot right in the face. If they had a jungler that, like, wasn't in the air right there and wasn't Artio, they could have stopped him from doing that. I don't know. Shallowber was free to do a lot of what he wanted to do, but the main thing is he wasn't missing. Like, the thing is, Shallowber sometimes falls apart in those scenarios.
Right.
But he came to the table. He came to play. I mean, he came like Crimson would on the Thoth.
Yeah, he really did.
I mean, we should give him credit for that.
Absolutely. Shallowber played a great game. I mean, he got a little bit lucky in my mind with the build being really greedy, delaying until 4th item.
Oh my god.
The double stack. Honestly, if I'm Myth, I might be okay keeping him on the Thoth and then just picking something early game and just killing him while he's going for that super greedy
play
build.
Odin or something.
Exactly. Like that is a build that you really just shouldn't be able to get away with at this level.
But I feel as though that's also a build that he adjusts for that specific game because of the fact that he knew he was going up against the Artio jungle. He knew he wasn't going to really have anybody pressuring him out.
Yeah, once he saw Artio get behind, I think he might have thought, I can stack Thoth here after he already stacked Warlocks. I don't think he does that in a regular game. I don't think anyone would do that. I barely know anything about mage builds, and I know I would never do that in a regular game.
No,
so
you can never catch me doing the double stack. I mean, maybe on Kukulkan when I'm just having some fun.
That just shows how little of a threat he saw Artio being. And with the Xing 10, I mean, it's the exact same thing that happened yesterday with us. We played Artio, and they had Xing 10, and he just threw him at the beginning of every fight, and that's what happened in this game, too. The Artio, I mean, he even had Aegis this time, and he still had, like, 6 or 7 deaths. It just didn't work. I don't want to see Artio again this LAN unless they have Osiris. Even with Osiris, I think they'll still be really hesitant to pick it. I know Jumpahhh likes it, but after that game, I doubt we'll be seeing it again from these guys.
I highly doubt because, I mean, you already experienced it yourself, Mifflin.
It was a lot of yelling.
There was a lot of yelling. That is one thing that's for sure. But it was a pretty rough game all around, I would say, for Myth, because not only were they dealing with the repercussions of trying to compensate for that lack of Artio jungle damage, but you also have to consider that Medieval was stopping the members that needed to actually try and carry.
Medieval played really, really well in this game. Had some moments where the decision-making was a little off, namely blinking to auto-attack before level 1.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
That was a little fried. But overall, Medi, his cages were on point. How many times did Delnyy ult, and then immediately the cage comes down right afterwards?
There was one play where the Naja had someone in the air, and he like moved so that the ult caught someone in it, but he knew that when the guy landed on the Naja ult, it also caught him in, and then jumped on the guy and killed him. It was just, that actually might be this play.
Yeah.
Watch it. He gets the Fafnir and then jumps on him, and then the Fafnir is stuck in the cage. I love his Odin play in this game. You don't see a lot of Odin supports going off like Medi did here, but like that's a great cage right there. But I love seeing him play that.
What about the Rangda's mask? How'd you feel about that?
I barely even know what Rangda's mask does. I've never bought Rangda's mask in my life. So I saw him pick it up and I was like, that's weird. But I mean, can you tell me what it does? Because I don't know.
It gives you that 10 pen, the movement speed when you get those stacks online.
Is that why he was doing so much damage?
Yeah, you get pen, you get movement speed, you get cooldown reduction per stack.
Okay.
So it's risky, but it ends up working out for him.
It worked out for him.
Yeah, sure did.
We were actually talking about that because of the risks that he took without rushing that warrior tab, because it was clear he was looking for damage. It's just how much of it could he actually acquire risking that Rangda selection. Of course, it ended up panning out early on. He was 1-0-3, giving him 5 stacks already. And whenever you get get halfway through your stacks, and it was around the 6-minute mark, I
Yeah,
want to
it
say,
was
that he
really
actually, it
early.
was super early on. So that was a great pickup. A risk versus reward paid off every time.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of if I'm going something aggressive like Rang does, I want to double down and go for Warrior Tabi and really try and bring that burst damage. But by him going tank boots, it kind of mitigates some of the risk of going Rang does, but it still has the damage.
The thing with Odin too is you say if you get a kill or an assist, it gives you a stack. If
Right.
you get a kill in the cage,
You get the power buff,
Yeah, you get
right.
the power buff. So it kind of couples
Works
onto
well
each other.
together,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
you know what I mean. And he was getting that. There was a lot of times where he was either securing kills that were low, or he was doing like 40% of their health bar, and then Shallowber's ult would come in and kill him. It was done nicely by them.
It was.